Uh, what's up, David? How you doing? Is the I hate to ask you this question again, David. Is the picture quality and everything okay? Is there some lag? Because it was OBS was barking at me. It looks good. Great. That's what a relief. It's been a weird goddamn morning. So this morning I was supposed to record. Well, this afternoon it was at noon. I was supposed to record a Monster of the Week with a very special guest that I've been excited to record with. We've had to postpone it a couple of times because of various issues. And today was going to be the day. And at like 11:30-ish, this construction crew moves into the alley next to our apartment and just starts fucking banging and sawing and screaming. Not screaming, but they're talking extremely loud, like right here next to my window. And we had like 15, 20 minutes where we're supposed to record, and I'm like, well, what do we do? And they were there for an hour and a half, 2 hours or so. Yeah, about 2 hours, because they stopped about 20 minutes ago now. So, like, it's fine now, but I don't know if they're gonna come back or what the fucking deal is. But it was too loud to record, and I was frustrated because that makes me look bad in front of this guest that I have to say this. I have to once again reschedule it. So we might get busted out of here in just a second by more noise. Hopefully it's not too bad. It's also still 1,000 degrees in Los Angeles, so I'm trying to keep the fans out of position so that way they don't bother anyone. But yeah, I don't understand what was going on. Maybe just a hiccup with the internet. But then somebody knocks on the door as I'm like in the 10-minute pre-roll, so I run over to go answer the door, and there's a package, and that's cool. I ordered some clothes, some pants, some like shorts that I desperately need. But that's like comes right at the exact bad time, and then I come back and this thing is yelling at me, and I'm like, can I just do any of the things that I need to do today? But anyway, that's me complaining. You're not here to hear me complain. You're here instead to talk about monsters. That's right, this is our Monster Workshop, a companion piece to our Monster of the Week streams. And yeah, the way that this works is that we take... Oh, I forgot my monster manual. I was so caught up. Let me grab that really quick, and then I'll be back in just a second. One memento. Un momento. That would be the Spanish word. Un momento. Will I ever have the books that I need with me? Will I ever? We go through one monster a week-ish. Well, I've been a little behind lately. I did miss these fun misadventures. I definitely did. We go through one monster a week in the monster manual, and we dissect it. We talk about its lore and its history in the game, and we talk about how the 5th edition version could maybe be improved, and things we like and things we don't like. And we have been really slogging through a couple of big monster groups lately, because I do it alphabetically, starting at the beginning, going all the way through, and then when a guest comes in, we'll like interrupt it for their favorite monster. So we've done the Gelatinous Cube, and we've done the Pegasus, and we've done the Mind Flayer and the Mummy. And we have a couple more ones coming out. In fact, there's a new guest episode coming out. It should be tomorrow for patrons, and Sunday for general public. That is another of the most iconic monsters in the 5th edition Monster Manual, or in any edition of Dungeons & Dragons, and that is the Lich, which I was lucky to be joined by Jackie Leung, and better known as Death by Mage, and boy, does he have a lot to say about liches. So that episode is coming out, as I said, Friday, so tomorrow for patrons, and general public on Sunday. But on my sort of solo episodes, I have been carving my way through the Ds. We did demons, we did devils, and now we're finally breaking into dragons. Yes, that's right. This week, we are talking about dragons. More specifically, we're talking about one type of dragon, a metallic dragon, the lowest CR, ostensibly the weakest of the metallic dragons, and that is the brass dragon. Now, the way the podcast works is that when we're going through the dragons, I've sort of broken it down into 5 episodes, where I cover 2 dragons each episode. So the weakest chromatic and the weakest metallic, then the second weakest, and so on and so forth, and so on and so forth, right? The thing is that I have actually already designed new versions of the chromatics. I did a couple of years ago, sort of pre-pandemic, just because I felt like the chromatic dragons are just not particularly exciting to run. but I never got around to doing the metallics. I mainly just did the chromatics. Those are the only ones I tend to use in my campaigns. So I thought it might be good to have this stream be a chance to redesign those metallic dragons. Because they're cool, they're just not something that's really in the lore of my world. We have gold dragons in Undoom, but I think that's about it. I kind of think there are too many types of dragons. I'm really not interested in, like, gem dragons. There's just so many already, all of these extra dragons. But since we're doing the 5th edition Monster Manual, we are going to talk about the Brass Dragon. Great. So let's talk about the Brass Dragon on concept first, and then we'll talk about, I have 5 problems here, which is a few more than we normally do. We normally only do 3 problems, but I have 5 little issues that I have with the Brass Dragon, and then we will take it from there. So the Brass Dragon is the sort of least of the metallics in terms of its power, and also kind of its station. They are known to be sort of talkative and gregarious. They tend to live in hot climates, and they have a particular love of magic items that are intelligent, as it gives them, it's basically a companion. Lore-wise, they're very fun in that way. I love the idea of a dragon that is sort of bored and would love to make conversation with anyone that's around. That sounds awesome. I love the kind of story behind them. Mechanically, it's a little tricky to talk about them because the way dragons are statted in 5th edition is that they have different age categories. So you've got the wormling, the young, the adult, and the ancient. And so it's hard necessarily just to say, these are all the abilities that the Brass Dragon has. I'll just kind of do a brief summary. They have a fire breath weapon as kind of their primary breath weapon. And then they also have a sleep breath, sort of like a sleeping gas that they breathe out that obviously puts their foes to sleep. As they get higher level, they get things like more blind sight. They have a burrow speed and a fly speed. As with all dragons, they have good saving throws, particularly con, wisdom, and charisma. But they also have good dex to try to offset how bad their dex actually is. They get multi-attack, and as they get more powerful, they can basically have fire in their bite attack because they breathe fire. They eventually get a frightful presence, like many types of dragons. I think all types of dragons, and also some legendary actions. The Brass Dragon has, like all dragons, it has Detect, which just make a Wisdom Perception check. It has Tail Attack and a Wing Attack that costs 2 actions. Eventually, they also get lair actions, where they can summon a strong wind or a cloud of sand in their lair. And they have 3 regional effects. They can make tracks appear within 6 miles of their lair. They can make images of large or smaller monsters kind of haunt the area, sort of like illusions. And then whenever a creature of intelligence 3 or higher comes to 30 feet of a waterfall of a water source, the dragon becomes aware of the creature's presence and location. So those are kind of the basics of the Brass Dragon, a little bit about the lore and a little bit about the mechanics. Dragons in 5th edition are kind of an example of like plug and chug. They don't really mechanically change all that much not only between age categories, but also between different types of dragon. Like if you were to replace the fire breath with a different element of breath, right? Like poison or something like that, the Brass Dragon really wouldn't look that different from the green dragon. And that's kind of one of the things we're going to talk about, is that the dragons don't feel particularly interesting on their own. So my first problem with the Brass Dragon is that brass and gold both share an element type. The Brass Dragon breathes fire, and the Gold Dragon breathes fire. Now, obviously, the Red Dragon also breathes fire, but I always thought it was a little weird that 2 of the kind of standard metallics are both squatting on the same element type. It's not necessarily like a problem. I just think it makes them more forgettable. It's like, oh, and you also do fire. I think their justification is that they tend to live in drier climates, like they tend to live in the desert. So I understand that they are kind of in a bind too, because most of the rest of the dragons of the metallics have an associated other breath weapon, or have a chromatic dragon that they pair with, right? So the silver, for example, breathes cold, much like the white does. The gold breathes fire, much like the red. I think it's the bronze that breathes lightning. Now I'm trying to remember what the copper breathes. Does the copper breathe fire as well? Because that would be an awful lot of fire. Or does the copper breathe acid? Bronze does lightning. Brass does fire. If the copper breathes fire... No, the copper breathes acid. So, yeah, That's right. We talked about this in the podcast. So what this means is that the green dragon has no direct elemental corollary, right? They don't want any of the metallic dragons to breathe poison because they sort of think of poison as being inherently evil or like off topic, off tone for the metallics. Now, I think that's kind of silly, but I do agree that the brass dragon isn't a great candidate for poison. It doesn't feel like a particularly poisonous dragon, right? Not that you couldn't do it, but I kind of understand the bind they're in. So I was thinking, are there any other types of damage that, like elemental types of damage that aren't represented here? You probably want to stick clear of Radiant and Necrotic because those, again, have kind of an alignment association with them. Radiant being sort of holy light and Necrotic being sort of unholy. But then that doesn't leave you a lot of other options, right? Lightning is covered, acid is covered, poison we've ruled out, fire, cold, force. I eventually realized, though, that there is no dragon with a thunder breath. Now, that sounds a little weird, right? But at the same time, it also makes a lot of sense, because if it's a breath weapon, if it's an exhale, then thunder, like sort of sonic, makes a lot of sense. So I would probably reflavor it and say that it's not really a breath, but it's a roar. And I think it fits the Brass Dragon really well because they're talkers, right? So much of the Brass Dragon's power is about their power of speech. So I would basically recommend changing the fire breath to a thunder breath, and it's like a concussive ability. So we'll get into the mechanics of that in a little bit, but that's my first proposed change. My second problem, and this is like widespread across the metallics, I really don't like that they have this weird gaseous like second breath power. I think it's strange. I don't necessarily know why they need to have another one. Like, there's nothing about them in their lore or in their design that necessarily says they have to have it. It's also very strange to me that, like, it's always this form of gas. Like, if they just had the gas breath weapon, and the notion was that they didn't have these sort of inherently destructive powers like fire breath or cold breath or whatever, you know, okay, I still think it's a little weird, but that makes more sense to me. But for some reason, they just get both. And I think that's poor design. I think it puts you in this weird position. Like, I think the conceit is that they're non-lethal, so they're supposed to be good dragons, and so blah, 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 blah. Now, when I redesigned the chromatics a couple of years ago, I specifically wanted to give them a few more elemental-themed powers that the dragons can play with. So, for example, the white dragon that I designed has a recharge 3/4 ability to pair with its breath weapon called Permafrost, where it uses its cold breath to try to cover its body in ice and give it some extra temporary hit points, a little bit of extra armor class, right? So it's like a utility power, but it gives the dragon more of a chance to do something interesting on a turn when you don't roll the breath weapon. And that's usually a bonus action, right? So it's a bonus action anyway, and then in addition to that, it only recharges on a 3/4. So my proposal is to keep the concept of having this sort of secondary power, but shunt it over into the recharge 3/4 and specifically make it a bonus action. The flavor here is that it is less of another breath weapon, and it is more of a sort of Skyrim style, like ancient draconic word or chant or whatever you want to do, right? The notion that Bahamut taught the metallic dragons some of like the true names of different things like sleep or like fear or whatever you want to do, and the dragon knows it and can speak it, and just hearing this word, this draconic pronouncement, right, is enough to inspire these effects, right? I think that feels like a lot more intentional, and it feels a lot more flavorful than just, oh, I have two sacks in my I have two like breath weapon sacks in my body, one of them for fire and one of them for sleeping gas. You know, the brass dragon knows the true name of sleep, and if it speaks it, then you are put to sleep if you fail your saving throw, right? Great. My next problem is that the lore in 5th edition mentions that metallic dragons often have a shape-changing power, but there just is no mechanical expression of that. They just say sometimes they take the shape of humanoids. And again, I understand that their desire not to overload the stat block with too much information, but if it makes the dragon unappealing to play, or doesn't give me any hints or clues as to how this would work, then it kind of leaves me swinging. I recently had a copper dragon in my Eberron campaign that was disguised as a humanoid, and I realized when the characters were like interacting with him, I didn't understand how that worked. Like, I didn't understand the specific rules about, like, is it an illusion? Is it like the devas change shape? Like, how does this function? How would someone who cast detect magic on them, you know, how would they interact with that, right? So I kind of think if you're going to have shape changing be a big part of the dragon, you've got to put that in the stats. So my recommendation is just to restore the brass dragon and probably all of the metallic dragons shape change powers if you can. Hey, what's up, M. Grant? Thanks for coming. So we're on 3 of 5 issues. Now, another thing I tried to do in my redesigns for the chromatics is I tried to give them some interesting passive utility powers or things like that. Things that could come up in sort of like a non-combat scenario, right? Or that might help them in combat, but isn't, you know, just another form of attack. So an example would be that in my white dragon, the kind of paired dragon with the brass dragon, they have an ability called Blood Sight. And the idea here is that they have increased senses and awareness, kind of like a shark or a sahuagin. Basically, they can detect the presence of creatures that don't have all of their hit points, right? If you're bleeding at all, the kind of hunter dragon, the sort of bloodthirsty white dragon, can detect a single drop of blood, you know, from a great distance. And the bigger and more powerful the dragon gets, the better its senses for detecting this blood is. My red dragon has a treasure sense that lets them detect items and identify magical items and their properties at a distance, things like that. So I was trying to think, what is a good one for the brass dragon? And I like the idea of it having some kind of a charm is probably the wrong word, but like some ability to like kind of disarm a potential attacker, right? That there's almost like an aura of like friendliness around the dragon that makes it difficult to attack them. My black dragon has an aura of malice that actually drives people to attack the black dragon, but often in kind of a foolish or inadvisable way. So I'm not sure exactly what the mechanism for this power would be, but I like the idea that there is sort of an aura around the brass dragon that makes them seem friendlier or more reasonable or like more fun to hang out with. And then lastly, and this is again going to be a problem we're going to run into over and over again with the different metallics, the legendary, lair, and regional effects for the dragon are all pretty boring. I think the worst offenders here are their legendary actions. All dragons in 5th edition, at least in the monster manual, have the same 3 legendary actions, and they have been kind of widely panned as being one of the worst parts of the dragon design. The legendary actions, in my opinion, are supposed to almost be the most broken things about the dragon. It's like the thing that pushes them beyond, you know, other monsters, that makes them seem even scarier than normal. And I kid you not, one of the dragon's standard ones is just detect. The dragon makes a perception check. Like, that's such a stupid, like, not only does the dragon have such a high perception bonus anyway, that its passive perception is often high enough to detect hidden or invisible characters, right? And a lot of times they'll have keen senses or things like that as well, or even true sight or blind sight at certain levels. It's like, why on earth would it need to spend a legendary action to look around? Especially if you're fighting it in its lair, like, it's just such a waste of one. And then they have a wing attack and they have a tail attack, which I don't hate, but I think we could give the DM some more options. So again, in my chromatic redesign, the white dragon has 5 different legendary actions, and we removed detect, and we kept the wing attack and the tail attack. Because there's nothing wrong with them necessarily, they're just a little bit underwhelming, right? If you just want like a straight up attack option, it's good to have them. But I want to think of a couple more interesting legendary actions. So kind of going along with the charm ability, the only one that I thought of during the podcast that I was really like enamored with was the idea that the brass dragon can, as a legendary action, ask sort of like a charming question to a character, almost like the command spell, but rather than it being a command, it's sort of like a personal question, right? That the brass dragon is just so curious, like in the middle of the fight, it turns to you and it says, hey, what's your favorite color? And then you have to make like a wisdom save against like stopping on your next turn and like answering and not doing nothing but answering, right? That it's this sort of like catching you off guard. Like the brass dragon is just such a pleasant creature that I love the idea of these kinds of powers. Their lair actions are a little bit better. They have the ability to summon wind and to summon like sand clouds. In previous editions, they could summon literal dust devils to kind of whirl around the battlefield. That's kind of cool. And if we give them like a sonic or a thunder component, then having like a collapsing ceiling effect could be kind of cool too, right? Like a seismic rubble falling down. And I think of the three, of Legendary, Lair, and Regional, I think the regional effects are the most interesting and sort of need the least tweaking. I usually add 2 Legendary actions. One of them is often regional effects. One of them is often like more of a role-playing idea than a mechanical expression. So like for the white dragon, they're like basically hunger exists in the world. It's like famine kind of spreads around the area around the white dragon, and creatures and animals there are filled with like an insatiable hunger, sort of mirroring the bottomless hunger of the white dragon. And so the notion of saying that there's some kind of an effect on the populace that isn't just a pure mechanics thing, I really like. But I love the idea of doing it with metallic dragons that are ostensibly good aligned, right? That can vary. But like, if the nature of a brass dragon is that it's kind of gregarious and talkative and likes to chat you up, the notion of people in the region around the brass dragon being friendlier, I think is really interesting, right? That like, they are more likely to talk and to gossip and to sometimes get distracted and not do their duties, right? Because they're so busy gossiping and socializing, right? Like little clues that if you're in the area, it's like, well, these people in this town are really chatty. What's going on with that? I also think you could adopt, or you could improve several of the existing regional effects. One of them is that like, if a creature of intelligence 3 or more approaches a water source within 6 miles of the dragon's lair, the dragon knows about it. Which is fine, but like, again, a little underwhelming. I would almost say that it can speak through those water sources, because I think what they're trying to do is like an oasis thing, right? Is that like, if you're in the desert and you're going along and you come to an oasis and you're exhausted and you're going to obviously be drawn towards the water, then the dragon might know if you're in the vicinity of its lair. But I love the idea that not only does the dragon know, but then the dragon's like reflection looks up at you through the water and asks you, you know, hey, what's your favorite color? Right, like that kind of stuff. I think that's a little more interesting. That almost like the dragon can scry through water sources within a certain distance to its lair. I also like the idea of some kind of a zone of truth effect. That might even be a good lair action more than a regional effect. That like, especially in a kind of social encounter. I mean, that could also be the charm ability, right? That you can't tell a lie in the presence of the brass dragon. Like anyone who, that might be the passive ability, is that if you get within a certain distance of the brass dragon, you have to make a save against a zone of truth, and you can't willingly lie. And it's less about like, I'm an interrogator, and more just like, the dragon is so disarming and just sort of pleasant to talk to that it just, why would you want to lie in front of the dragon? You know what I mean? So that's a lot of ideas that we're going to work through, and some of them are still pretty sketchy, so it'll take a lot of like work to kind of like piece together exactly mechanically how to express these different ideas. We're also going to like drip feed the abilities over the course of the different age categories for the dragon. So I'm very much going to be using my chromatic dragons as an example. Speaking of, if you're interested in those redesigns, I know David has certainly looked at them. You can find all 5 of my chromatic redesigns in the Trove, which is the kind of like month-by-month updated database of Patreon rewards on our Patreon. So if you go check out our Patreon right now, the link should be below. You will see the pinned post is probably a couple of months old because I'm not very good at updating it. But it has many, many monsters in it, including my 5 redesigned chromatic dragons. So if you want to see the white, the blue, the green, the black, and the red, that is where you want to go. So we're going to jump over then to Tetracube. We're going to start talking about the Brass Dragon Wormling. You guys won't be able to see this, but I'm going to open up my White Dragon Wormling to just kind of have it here next to me. That way I can kind of draw inspiration from it as we're working. But we're going to start with the Brass Dragon Wormling. Now, for the most part, I don't tend to change a lot of the basic stuff. You know, I'm not going to change the... also, it's been a little laggy in the past couple of streams, so I will try to scroll and type separate from talking to hopefully cut down on any too serious lag. So I'll scroll it down to look at this. Before we do that, though, this is a website called Tetracube that has a lot of really, really great resources. If you like them and you want to make your own monster stat blocks, this is a great place to do it. Check them out, tetra-cube.com. Not paid to say this, it's just a website that I use all the goddamn time. Okay, so I'm going to scroll really quick. Okay, so I tend to keep most of the generic stuff, right? Like, I'm not going to change the dragon's size or its AC or its hit points or anything like that. Its saves and all that stuff is usually pretty good. I'm going to leave a lot of that stuff. But what I will change here is probably going to be its resistances and immunities, because we are changing the brass dragon from a fire dragon to a thunder dragon. We're obviously going to want to change its immunity from fire to thunder. Cool, immune to thunder, great. Still speaks Draconic, that's all well and good. My white dragon has, now for abilities, my white dragon has Blood Sight, so it's kind of passive ability, the sort of Zone of Truth effect for the brass. It's got Keen Smell, which I don't necessarily think we need to give to the brass dragon. It's not particularly a hunter. It's got a Bite that has a little bit of upgraded damage, and then it's got its Cold Breath. So theoretically, all we would really need here is the Zone of Truth effect and the Bite attack, and the Thunder Breath. I am actually going to remove the secondary breath for now. I think that's going to come in at an older point. The idea that a younger dragon maybe doesn't know the true word for sleep. So we're just going to scroll down. Yeah, very simple. Okay, so I'm trying to think of what do we call this ability, this sort of like truth ability. The way Zone of Truth works is that you cast it, you drop it, and then every creature in a certain like aura from you has to make a saving throw, right? So Zone of Truth, I just want to get the wording on it in particular. Yeah, you create a magical zone that guards against deception in a 15-foot radius sphere centered on a point of your choice within range. Until the spell ends, a creature that enters the spell's area for the first time on a turn or starts their turn, they must make a charisma saving throw. On a failed save, a creature can't speak a deliberate lie while within the radius. Okay, yeah, I think that's pretty simple. I don't know what to call it yet, but we say any creature that starts its turn, that enters or starts its turn within 15 feet, enters or starts its turn within 15 feet of the brass dragon, cannot, must make a DC 11, because that's the DC we're working with here, DC 11 charisma saving throw. On a failed save, a creature can't speak a deliberate lie while in the radius. Is it like, because you could easily just step outside of the radius, right? Which maybe that's okay. Maybe the point is that like if you can, like if your character does want to lie to the dragon, you have to find some reason to move away from it, right? And the dragon would be incentivized to try to advance and keep you close, right? Yeah, I think that's fine. While deliberate lie while in the radius. Great. So, Zone of Truth goes on to say, an affected creature is aware of the spell and can thus avoid answering questions to which it would normally respond with a lie. Such a creature can be evasive in its answers as long as it remains within the boundaries of truth. I kind of think, for simplicity's sake, we don't put that part in here, because monster abilities are often, you know, relatively like lighter on their descriptions. Let's see. An affected creature, let's try it though, is aware of the effect, and can avoid answering questions or answer evasively. Evasively? How do you spell evasively? Ugh, how do you spell evasively? With such a lie. Answer evasively as long as it remains within the boundaries of the truth. What's nice about this one is that, like, what do we call it? I want to call it like disarming aura or something like that, right? Like, Let's call it that for now. I'm happy to change it if there's a better one. But what I like about this power, at least from the sake of a monster designer, is that all we have to do in future versions of the dragon is increase the size of the radius and increase the DC. Right? Like, it doesn't actually like ramp up in power. It just ramps up in how hard it is to avoid. Right? Yeah, I think that's cool. Okay, so then let's scroll down here, and we're going to do the dragon's bite attack. So we want to do thunder, and the way that I do this to make the dragon's bite a little more interesting, so for example with the white dragon, even with the wormling, you know, you attack and you hit, it's a 5-foot reach, you take 1d10 plus 2 piercing damage, and then plus a little bit of cold damage, of course, which for some reason the dragon doesn't do here, it's just a bite. But then it says, if the creature targets a creature, it is grappled. Until the grapple ends, the target is restrained, and the dragon can't bite another target. The idea with the white dragon is that as it gets bigger, it eventually gains swallow. Because again, this is the dragon that specifically eats people, or is all about eating and hunting, so I wanted it to have a swallow. Like, of the creatures that should have it, I feel like the dragon is one of them. So I like to always like put a little bit of an extra button on the bite to make their bite more severe and scarier than their claw attack. So the question with the bite attack for the brass dragon is that if it deals extra thunder damage, what should the effect be? I kind of wonder if it pushes you away, right? That sort of feels like what makes the most sense. Sort of a thunder wave effect. Yeah, I think that's the simplest like expression of it. We'll have to find a way to make the cold or to make the thunder breath, or probably we'll call it thunderous roar, to make the thunderous roar like more interesting. Maybe it pushes you and knocks you prone in the area. I think that's fine. Okay, great. So it's +4 to hit, reach 5 feet, one target, hits for 1d10 plus 2 piercing damage, plus 2 or 1d4. Cold. Yeah, we'll just do 1d4 cold damage because it'll do the math on its own. Because that's the magic of Tetracube. Not cold. Excuse me. I'm reading my white dragon. Thunder damage. Thunder damage. There we go. Let's see. And the target plus 1d4 target, and the target must make a DC 11 Constitution saving throw or be pushed. Is it just 5 feet to start with? 5 feet away from the dragon. I think we should say or be pushed 5 feet. Because it could be 5 feet and then 10 feet and then 15 feet and then 20 feet. I kind of think that's cool. Yeah, I'm into that. So that's the bite. That's pretty simple. We add that as an action. And now for breath weapon, we're going to call it Thunderous Roar, I think, rather than breath weapon. Thunderous Roar. Recharge 5/6. The dragon roars in a 15-foot cone. Each creature in that area. Ooh, what if the brass dragon's one is not a cone? I know this is getting like pretty far out there, but what if it's like a radius? Boom, right? Like, yeah, I kind of think that's better. Roars in a 15-foot radius. So it catches everybody in the zone of truth. That's fair. Each creature in the area must make a DC 11 Constitution saving throw, taking... So it'd be 5d8 normally. 5d8 thunder damage on a failed save, or half as much damage on a successful one. Here, let's do this. Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, the target takes 5d6 thunder damage, is pushed 15 feet. So you just put 10 feet on top of the distance that the bite pushes you. It's pushed 15 feet and knocked prone. Oh, on a failed save. On a successful save, the target takes half damage and is either pushed or knocked prone. The dragon's choice. I like that. Okay, cool. There's Thunderous Roar. And that is the new Brass Dragon Wormling. I don't know why it's 2 columns. Probably be 1 column. Great. Any creature that enters or starts its turn within 15 feet of the dragon must make a DC 11 Charisma saving throw on a failed save. Good. On a failed save. On a failed save. Oh, let me update that. Sorry, this is probably making my thing jump around. M. Grant says, that is cool. Oh, yeah, no worries, Grant. Grant says keep popping in and out. No, you're cool. It is cool. A creature can't speak a deliberate lie while in the radius. Boy, my typing is bad. I have to zoom the window way out to do the stream, so I can't see my typing very well. An affected creature is aware of the effect and can avoid answering questions or answer evasively as long as it remains within the bonds of truth. The bounds of truth. Great. That's that. And then melee attack is +4 to hit. Piercing damage, 1d4 thunder damage, and the target must make a DC 11 Constitution saving throw or be pushed 5 feet. The dragon roars in a 15-foot radius. Each creature in the area must make a DC 11 Constitution saving throw. I think something about like roars in a 15-foot radius. Each creature in the area must make a DC 11 Constitution saving throw. I think something about roars in a 15-foot radius feels weirdly worded. So let's do the dragon emits a thunderous roar. Thunderous roar. Each creature within 15 feet of the dragon. Each creature within 15 feet of the dragon. There we go. Must make a DC 11 Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, the target takes 5d8 thunder damage, is pushed 15 feet, and knocked prone. On a successful save, the target takes half damage and is either pushed or knocked prone, the dragon's choice. That is an action. Great. Awesome. That's the Brass Dragon Wormling. M. Grant says, does this seem like a lot for a Wormling, though? It could be. It still says it's a CR1. I don't usually fuck with CR just because CR is already so borked. I think the reason that I'm not too worried about improving the power of these dragons is that every time I hear about someone running a dragon encounter, the dragon just gets absolutely stomped on because they're just not well designed for the CR they purportedly are at. So if this was like out of the egg, potentially, it is a medium dragon. I think by the time you are fighting this Wormling, it is at the upper end of its Wormlinghood. So I'm not too worried about it, but that is generally going to be the tone of these episodes, is that it is going to be about making these dragons scarier almost across the board. Excellent. So one thing we're going to do then, as we jump over to our young dragon, is that we're going to copy a lot of these abilities. It's a great question, though, M. Grant. It's something that, like, if I have a weakness in my monster design, it's that I have no real understanding of how powerful some of these abilities are. All I'm doing is eyeballing. So if you're running this at home and you look at this dragon and you think, good lord, that's broken as hell, change it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm definitely not an expert, so it's always good to question whether I'm making them too powerful. So I'm just going to grab some of these abilities and then paste them over into some of these other dragons. It should be relatively simple to do. We're going to go right over to the young dragon next. Okay, great. I've just put those in. I'm going to open up my young white dragon, and then we will see what new fresh abilities we're going to give it. We will also improve the the ones that we have, the abilities we have. Okay, here's the young white. So these stat blocks are just going to get longer and longer as we go. Great. Oh, hey, M. Grant says, I forgot we were fixing and was fixated on current build styles referencing Fizzbands. You know, I have not had a chance to look at Fizzbands. I was a little disappointed that they just didn't, you would know better, M. Grant, if you've read it, but it seemed like they didn't address the core problem of why dragons aren't very good to run. It's like a lot of fluff and some other new types of dragons, but I didn't really see anything that made me think like, oh, cool, they fixed the dragons, you know, which is sort of what I was hoping they were going to do with Fizzbands. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I kind of did a periphery scan of it, and I did not see them addressing the kinds of things I wanted them to address in that book. Which is no shade to Fizzbands. I'm sure there's a lot of cool stuff in there. It just wasn't the things that I was looking for. Okay, let's do Disarming Aura first. Creature starts to turn within, what do we want? We want to go to 20 feet? 20 feet of the dragon. Is that enough? We go to 25 feet? I think let's go to 25 feet. Add 10 feet each time. Now, the new DC for the saving throw should be 15. So DC 15 Charisma saving throw. That is all well and good. That goes to abilities. Makes 3 attacks, 1 with his bite and 2 with his claws. We want to change the... Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. M. Grant says they definitely didn't fix them. That is kind of what I thought. We're going to kill the... Actually, we'll leave the breath weapon for now, because I want to use it for our thing in a second here. So the young white dragon has blood sight again, but it's improved its distance. It has the ice walk ability, which is a power that the dragon gets at this level anyway. Still has keen smell, but now we add in the recharge 3/4 permafrost, which we're gonna do the draconic word for. That's a 3/4, so we'll have to do that in just a moment. And then it's got bite and 2 claws for its multi-attack. So we'll just keep the bite as is. We'll improve the bite. We're not going to change too much else about it. Keep the claw, and then we will just up the power on the thunderous roar. So let's do that really quick while I have it up. Each creature within 25 feet of the dragon. Well, this is a 30-foot cone, so that's fine. But it's a cone. Maybe we're making these auras a little too big. Because if it's a 30-foot cone... right? Then if it's 30 feet all around, that's pretty gnarly. You know what I'm saying? It was 15 feet before. I think 25 feet is fine if we just reduce it by 5. It's a little, but again, we're mainly trying to make these dragons scarier. DC 15 Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, the target takes 10d8 thunder damage. Is pushed 20 feet back, knocked prone. On a successful save, the target takes half damage and is either pushed or knocked prone, the dragon's choice. Base jump on the breath weapon is 15 to 30 when you go up from young. Cool. Amethyst is cone too. That's what I'm referencing. Gotcha. No worries. So we're gonna reduce it by 5 feet. I'm not too worried about that because I feel like a 15 to 20 feet is not very sexy. But to say that it affects the dragon in all directions at 30 feet, that feels a little much. So we're going to put that there. That's Thunderous Roar. And then I want to copy the text of Sleep Breath, but we're going to put it in abilities. So we're going to go Draconic Word. Recharge 5/6, or recharge 3/4. The dragon speaks the true name of sleep. The true name of sleep. Each creature within 30 feet that can hear the dragon must succeed on a DC. They have DC 14. DC 14 Constitution saving throw. It's a lot of Constitution. I almost want it to be Wisdom or something. Yeah, or Charisma again. Charisma saving throw, or fall unconscious for 5 minutes. Wow. For 5 minutes. This effect ends for a creature if the creature takes damage or someone uses an action. I just have it here. Why am I typing it out? Draconic word. I'm gonna put colon sleep. So let's go add ability. Oops. You think charisma? Yeah, I'm into charisma. Oh, there also just aren't enough charisma saving throws. I will say that. Add ability. There we go. Cool. I like that. I'm into it, y'all. Okay, and then the bite attack, we're just going to change, and we're just going to say that it's now +7 to hit. +7 to hit. It's got a 10-foot reach because it's a longer-necked dragon. It hits for 2d10 plus 4. 2d10 plus 4 piercing damage plus 1d8 thunder. Ooh. And the target must succeed on a DC 15 Constitution saving throw or be pushed 10 feet. Cool. That is the bite. So that means, here's our new brass. Disarming Aura is the same, except that it's 25 feet away from the dragon and a DC 15 Charisma saving throw. We have Draconic Word Sleep. The dragon speaks the true name of Sleep. Each creature within 30 feet that can hear the dragon must succeed on a DC 14 Charisma saving throw or fall unconscious for 5 minutes. This effect ends for a creature if the creature takes damage or someone uses an action to wake it. And then it's got multi-attack, 1 with its bite and 2 with its claws. The bite is +7 to hit. One target, it's 2d10 plus 4 piercing damage plus 1d8 thunder damage, and the target must make a DC 15 Constitution saving throw or be pushed 10 feet. And then we got the claws, pretty much the same. Thunderous Roar. The dragon emits a thunderous roar. Each creature within 25 feet of the dragon must make a DC 15 Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, the target takes 10d8 thunder damage, is pushed 10 feet and knocked prone. On a successful save, the target takes half damage and is either pushed or knocked prone, the dragon's choice. Cool. That's the young. This is going quicker than I thought. We do have the legendary actions and the lair actions and stuff to deal with in a little bit. Yeah, we're cruising right along. We're about halfway through the stream. Okay. Once again, we're going to copy over our abilities. We'll check in with you in just a moment. Oh, I realized we gotta do something. We gotta do as a bonus action. As a bonus action, the dragon speaks the true name of Sleep. Okay. Add ability. That's better. Let's put it in here too. Add ability. Cool. Okay, cool. I'm going to finish the adult, and then I'm going to grab some water. All right, so this creature has legendary resistance and legendary actions as well. Let me open up my white dragon. I don't think I add any new abilities beyond those legendary ones at this state for the adult white. I'll double check, but I don't think so. Because it's already... Oh, I did add Swallow at this level, but I think we're okay. I don't think we need to go any further than that here. Okay, cool. So it's got Disarming Aura, it's got Draconic Word. Let's empower these. It starts his turn within, what is that? We added 10 feet, so 35 feet of the dragon. Let's make a DC. What's the new DC? 19 seems pretty high. We want to, yeah, 19 charisma saving throw. On a failed save, creature can't speak a deliberate lie. Blah, 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 blah. That's Disarming Aura. Draconic Word Sleep. As a bonus action, the dragon speaks the true name of Sleep. Each creature within, let's go to what, 50 feet
of the dragon that can hear the dragon must succeed on a DC 14, DC 19 charisma saving throw, fall unconscious for 5 minutes. This effect ends for a creature if the creature takes damage or someone else uses... Oh, shoot. I wanted to see if you're asleep for longer with a more powerful brass. I forgot if that changes. It's copper, bronze, adult brass. 10 minutes, yep. Okay. Yep. All right, that's the same. That's an ability. Rifle presence, that's all the same. We got to change the math here, so it should be plus 11 to hit. 10 feet. 2d10 plus 6. Now. Plus 1d8 thunder damage. The target must make a DC 19 Constitution saving throw or be pushed 15 feet. That is its action. Bite, claw, tail, that's all the same. Frightful Presence is the same. And then Thunderous Roar improves. So Thunderous Roar becomes each creature within 35 feet of the dragon must make a DC 19 Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, the target takes 12d8. Thunder damage is pushed 30 feet. Or is it 25 feet? What was it last time? It was 20 feet. Was it 15 before then? Yes. So 25 feet and is knocked prone. Is pushed 20 feet and knocked prone. This will say blah, blah, blah. That's all good. Okay, add action. So that's all fine. My question now is going to be about legendary actions, right? So let's see. I like the idea of the question. I like innocent question as one of them. So let's go innocent question. Innocent question. Or personal question. I think personal question is funnier. Personal question. The dragon asks a creature a personal question. With 30 feet. Asks a creature within 30 feet asks a personal question of a creature within 30 feet that can hear it. Of a creature within 30 feet that can hear the dragon. The creature must succeed on a DC. We'll say 17 because it's a layer action. I like wisdom save here. Wisdom saving throw. Or how is command worded? Does command use the phrase charmed? Oh, why am I looking at the monster manual? Let me get command. Because it's basically command, right? It's like it's command, but it's only limited to like, hey, you gotta talk to me. Answer this question. So I just want to see how command is worded and borrow some of that wording. Dragon must succeed in a wisdom save or follow or answer the question or spend its action answering the question on its next turn. Answering the question truthfully on its next turn. An affected creature cannot willingly tell a lie. Nor can avoid answering the question. I love this too. This is getting a little wordy, but once asked, the dragon cannot ask the same question of the same creature twice. Right? So you can't just ask it every single round, what's your favorite color, right? You have to change it every time. Great. That's a personal question. I think that costs 1 legendary action. That's very silly. I like how silly that is. Okay, so that's one that's very like intellectual. I don't hate the idea of a lair action or a legendary action that's a little more physical. How about I grab some water and y'all help me brainstorm 2 more legendary actions. Actually, you know what? That's good for now, actually. Yeah, because we just changed one of them. So I gave my white dragon black ice, which basically has like a grease-like effect. Yeah, I think it's pretty powerful. Do you think it should cost 2 actions? Because I kind of think it should just cost 1.
Nor avoid answering the question, not nor can. Nor avoid answering the question.
Ooh, 3 legendary actions that steals the action of a PC. You're saying personal question should be 3 legendary actions? I don't think that's the case. Saving throw, and it's a wisdom save, which are very easy to succeed at. Oh, I see what you're saying, that it just keeps using the same one. Yeah. Again, assuming they're failing their saving throws. Right? That's the thing that you have to remember. Right. Is that they have to yeah, I gotcha. They have to fail in their saving throw every single time, and the dungeon master has to think of new questions for the dragon, right? So I think there's a couple ways we can do this. I like it being lower, like, cost, right? Because if the idea that asking a question like this would take a bunch of the dragon's, like, stamina is kind of silly. I feel like it should be low cost. But I like but I hear what you're saying in terms of it could be abused. So you can either have it cost 2, which I think is fine. It's not my preference. Or you could say that once a creature has failed their saving throw, they have advantage on future wisdom saving throws against this effect. Right? So like they might like catch them once, but you fool me once kind of a thing, right? That's more where I'm leaning, that like the dragon could do it if it asks like a good enough question, right? But I'm less inclined to make it 2, which I think is a very reasonable read. You could definitely do that, but I almost want to change it and say that an affected creature cannot willingly tell a lie, and that like once. It is more elegant to make it 2. You're probably right. All right. Costs 2 actions. I think that's a little silly, but I think it's cleaner. It's cleaner. Okay, so we're gonna kill this one. All right. Grump. You're right, M. Grant. You're right. Cool. Yeah, I thought about immunity, but I kind of like the idea of like, oh my god, stop it, right? Like, I think that's funny. If they're like, shut up, That's kind of the joke of the brass dragon, is it's like sort of obnoxious. What's your favorite color? I'm gonna get some water. I think 2 actions is fine for me, and then when I come back, we will do we will come up with 2 more legendary actions, and we will start talking about lair actions. You like advantage after fail in the next attempt? I think there's a delay, Grant. I think you're a little bit behind me, but that's okay. What do you think? Do you think costs is better? Cost 2 is better? You think about it. I'm gonna get some water. I'll be back in just a second. There. Sorry, I was muted for a second. Once let's see, how do we word this? A creature that fails its saving throw against this effect. Yeah, a creature that fails its saving throw. That fails its saving throw against this effect has advantage on the next saving throw. A creature that fails its saving throw has advantage on the next saving throw against this effect. Once asked, the dragon cannot ask the same question of the same creature twice. We'll just do the dragon cannot ask the same question of the same... yeah, there we go. Okay, that's got to be the one then. Cool. Got it. All right. Ancient. Let's do the Ancient Dragon. What do we got a copy of? We got a copy over Disarming Aura. Yeah, and that's, M. Grant says, advantage on fail could create some amusing situations. And that's exactly what I want. It's kind of a joke power. It is definitely powerful, but action economy is the thing, is the real enemy in a fight like this, you know? Okay, let me copy these abilities over really quick. I'm going to fall silent for just a sec while I do this. Oh shoot, I'm an idiot. Look at this. Somehow I missed that the Ancient Dragon does have change shape. Well, shoot. Also, that's the thing we forgot to put back into the into this dragon. Into the adult. I think the adult should have change shape. I think so. M. Grant says there's a chat lag. There definitely is, but I always find that it's worse with you, buddy. I'm not sure why. But I obviously, you know, it's not a lot of other people are chatting right now, but I always find that you're like a little further behind even than other people. I worry if there's something going on. But let's put this change shape back in the other. Yeah, shoot. I forgot about that. What's up, Alan? Let's put this back in. I forgot all about this. Let's go change shape. Change shape. Okay, the dragon magically polymorphs into a humanoid or beast that has a challenge rating no higher than its own or back into its true form. It reverts to its true form if it dies. Any equipment it is wearing or carrying is absorbed or borne by the new form, the dragon's choice. In a new form, the dragon retains its alignment, hit points, hit dice, ability to speak, proficiencies, legendary resistances, lair actions, and intelligence, wisdom, and charisma scores, as well as this action. Its statistics and capabilities are otherwise replaced by those of the new form, except any class features or legendary actions of that form. Yeah, that's good. I actually don't think we have to change that. I think that can just be an action. That's going to wildly destabilize the... Oh, yeah. No worries, Grant. You're cool. I'm just happy you're here, buddy. Let's go like this. Yeah, that looks better. But yeah, we want change shape back in there for sure. Okay, cool. I knew we were missing something. Okay, so let's jump back over to our Ancient Brass. Disarming Aura needs to be adjusted. Any creature that enters or starts its turn within 35 feet, so this is now, we're just going to go 50 feet. We're just going to push it all the way out. What is the DC for a brass dragon? Sorry, not a brass dragon, an ancient dragon. We're looking at our white dragon for comparison. White dragon. Ancient white. Okay. So the Ancient White has... What are we talking about? For 22? Yeesh! Okay, 22 charisma saving throw. That's your disarming aura. I almost want to, like... I almost want to dial this up and say that, like, on a failed save, the creature can't speak deliberate lie while within the radius. On a failure of 5 or more, the creature can't attack the dragon. On a failure of 5 or more, the creature can't willingly harm the dragon while in the radius. Yeah, I think that's interesting. Cool. Draconic Word, Sleep. Speaks the true name of sleep. Each creature within... what did we said 50 last time? We're going to go to 60 feet. Fuck it. 100 feet. That can hear the dragon must succeed on the DC 22 Christmas saving throw or fall unconscious for 1 hour. This effect ends for a creature. Blah, 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 blah. There's that. Multi-attack is all good. Oh, we gotta do the new bite. Amethyst is 22. Or 23, sorry. 23. Brutal. Brutal. We gotta copy this bite power over here. This is a bite. Okay, here's the bite. So it's a plus 14 to hit now. Is it still 15 feet? Yeah, we're gonna say its neck is even longer. 15 feet. What's the damage on this? 2d10 plus 8 plus 2d8 thunder damage, and the target must succeed on a DC 22 Constitution saving throw or be pushed 20 feet. Okay, that's the bite. Add action. All that stuff is fine. Thunderous roar. The dragon emits a thunderous roar. Each creature within 35 feet of the... Ooh! Yeah, what if they should be deafened too, right? At a certain point? Oh no, they don't want to deafen them, because if they deafen them, they can't use their personal question. Yeah, so we're not going to do that. Each creature within 50 feet of the dragon must make a DC 22 Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, the target takes... What is the damage I need on this bad boy? 16d6. Thunder damage is pushed 30 feet and knocked prone. Half damage either pushed or knocked prone, the dragon's choice. Alan says he should have a chin attack because he's got chin fangs in the art. Chin bash, as we call it. Okay, that's Thunderous Roar. Change Shape is still good. Frightful Presence is still good. I want to swap where they are here. We got to kill Detect because it sucks. And we hate it, don't we, folks? Oh, we've got to change this. This is no longer costs 2 actions. This is now has the saving throw thing. Here's personal question. So we need 2 more legendary actions for this very talkative, sort of gregarious dragon. Yeah, we'll put it like that. That's fine. 2 more legendary actions, which are distinct from its lair actions. So, for example, boy, my brain. Oh yeah, and the dragon can take 5 legendary actions as well. So let's go 5 legendary actions. Oh, we gotta change the DC here. I'm just gonna bump the DC to 19 because I don't want to bump it all the way to 22. I think we can keep this one relatively low as a measure against, abuse. So, okay, we need 2 more legendary actions for our Brass Dragon. Brass Dragons are friendly, they are talkative, they are usually non-violent, so I would like at least 1 more that's some kind of a charm power or something like that, right? So something more mental. But I don't hate the idea of 1 more, of another one that's also kind of, more violent or whatever, right? Something with the thunder or, with sand or whatever. It can't be anything that is, like, lair related, because we've got to do those as well. Lair actions and regional effects. So what do we think are some cool legendary actions? These are interruptive, kind of in the middle of stuff, attacks or powers that our brass dragon can use. What about... So we have the Zone of Truth. I don't like the idea of like a charm because that feels very green dragon. My green dragons have like a mesmeric kind of caw-like gaze. So I want something that feels distinct from that, but something that's more in the like role-playing sphere, right? I think is cool. Like something that's almost more of an interpersonal. Reveal that it's your biological dad. Yeah, that's part of the change shape power, right? As he turns into your dad, and is like son or daughter. Ooh, talk in circles. Ooh, I like talk in circles. That's interesting. It's similar to it's similar to personal question, in that it's like he says something that confuses you. But I like the idea of it being like a big area. It's like everybody is affected by this, right? Like that he speaks a riddle or something. Yeah, that's interesting. Let's try it. Let's try it. What if we do talk in riddles? Because that's like an accusation that gets leveled at Gandalf. Talk in riddles. And this one I think we can say costs at least 2. Costs 2 actions. A koan. Yeah, exactly. What is this? That's very funny. The dragon asks an unanswerable question. Unanswerable question. I love, yeah, what is the sound of one hand clapping? That's very fun. All creatures within 100 feet of the dragon that can hear it must make a DC. We'll do DC 17. I think you do DC 19. That's fine because it's not going to be as damaging as personal question. Wisdom saving throw. On a failure, they have disadvantage on attack rolls. Like is it for 1 minute or until they figure out the answer? Because if it's a koan, it's an unanswerable question, right? It can't be answered, so there isn't an answer. Because I like the idea, like if it's speaking in riddles, that you might be able to just like, oh, I know the answer to that one. But the problem with that is you would have to have answers ready. You have to have riddles ready, which I don't want to put that on a DM. So I think it's funnier if it's an unanswerable question, and it sort of like messes with everybody's brain. I guess you would need to have that ready then too, unfortunately. But I like that idea. Within 100 feet of the dragon. What if you do like a math problem, right? Like a train leaves St. Louis. I think that's funny. On a failure, on a failure or become charmed. A charmed creature, that's what we should do. Or become charmed. It could be intelligence. I like it being wisdom because if it's an unanswerable question, then it's not about like in the joke about the train, then yeah, it's a math question. But the point here is to see beyond the fact, is to not be distracted by it, and to see it as an unanswerable question, right? Like a koan or a paradox is so associated with like Buddhist teaching, right? That that feels like wisdom to me over intelligence, right? There's no book you can read that will answer the question of what is the sound of one hand clapping, right? Or become charmed for 1 round. Because like it's you could also call it like mind blown or mind fuck, right? Like I think that's the conceit. If the dragon asks you a question that's like, what the fuck? What did you just say? And I think that's kind of fun. I think it's more fun if it's that and not until it isn't like a factoid. It's like, what's the capital of Paraguay? It's like, how do you know things are still there when you close your eyes? Like that kind of stuff, where it's like, and that's not a particularly great one, it's off the top of my head. But you know what I'm saying? It's just like mind blowing, like, what did he just say? Yeah, so for 1 round, while charmed, or a charmed creature has disadvantage on attack rolls. you fall over? That's kind of funny. A charmed creature has disadvantage on attack rolls. I mean, it's definitely like a stoner, right? That's kind of the vibe. It's like, have you ever really looked into your hands? Why does it not like the word is disadvantage not a word? It would take intelligence. I don't know. I disagree with you on that one, M. Grant. I don't think intelligence it's wisdom, you know. But that's fair, you know. You and I will just have to agree to disagree. I find we frequently come to this impasse. All creatures in 100 feet of the dragon that can hear it must make a DC 19 Wisdom saving throw, become charmed for 1 round. A charmed creature has disadvantage on attack rolls. A creature that fails to save by 5 or more falls prone. That's funny. Yeah, I'm not opposed to an int-based one. I think that's cool. I just don't think it's this one. Fails their saving throw by 5 or more. Falls prone. On factoid? I don't know what I think a factoid is. We haven't brought up factoids. A creature that fails their saving throw by 5 or more falls prone. Okay, that is talking circles, talking riddles, excuse me. That costs 2 actions. So I like this idea Alan says, though, of let's do an intelligence-based one. So what would an intelligence-based legendary action look like here? So again, apart from asking you, you know, well, they do have, like, one of their regional effects is that they create illusions of themselves or of other creatures. So I wonder if it's an illusion thing, and that's usually pierced by investigation or intelligence. So yeah, I kind of like that. Maybe it creates an illusion of itself. I'm sort of into that. I'm trying to think if any of the rest of them really, like, fuck with illusions. Like, do coppers fuck with illusions? Not really. Yeah, David is like, ooh, a mirage is a really good way to think of that. Yeah. Also, what's up, David? Yeah, a mirage is perfect because we're in a desert. They're deserts. Love that. Okay, so what is the function of mirage? I think this is a big one. I think this one costs 3 actions. Like, the dragon turns invisible and creates a mirage. Pop quiz, hotshot. Yeah, it's just facts. It's just like you know, random, like, again, what's the capital of Paraguay? I like mirage. I think it's mirage, but I love the idea of that. So the dragon turns invisible and creates in its place an illusion. Yeah, the dragon turns invisible and creates in its place an illusory image, either of itself. It's cash cab, yeah, and then you get gold the longer you're in the cab. Either of itself or, like, because I like the idea that, like, the DM could decide what it wants. Yeah, like project image, exactly. Let me look at that. Let's get some spell text in here to get this right. Project image. Uses its action to create an illusory copy of yourself that lasts for the duration. The copy can appear in any location within range that you have seen before, regardless of intervening obstacles. The illusion looks and sounds like you. Oh, but it's like up to 500 miles. Wow, I didn't know that. That's crazy. Looks and sounds like you, but is intangible. If the illusion takes damage, it disappears and the spell ends. You can use your action to move this illusion up to twice your speed, making it gesture, speak, and behave in whatever way you choose. So the dragon turns invisible and creates in its space an illusory image, either of itself or another creature or object. Creates an illusory image. This image can be of itself. Yeah, it could be mislead, too. Is it better to just say, because, like, mirage implies that it could be anything, right? But is it better to just do it mislead style? I wonder if that's smarter. Because then it simplifies it for the purposes of mirror image does 3 copies. Yeah, let's do mislead.
The dragon turns invisible at the same time that an illusory double of it appears. At the same time that an illusory double of it appears where it was standing. Yeah, I think mislead is better. The double lasts for 1 minute, but the invisibility ends. Yeah, exactly. I'm Grant. Ends if the dragon attacks, or if the dragon attacks or uses its draconic word power. Draconic word. Because otherwise, yeah, they're all attacks. You can use, the dragon can use its action. The dragon can use its action to move its illusory double up to twice its speed and make it gesture, speak, and behave in whatever way it chooses. The dragon can see through the eyes of the, through the eyes and hear through the ears. Can see through the eyes and hear through the ears as if it was located where the mirage, the illusion is. The illusion is. Yeah, that's fine. I'm not going to say that it's, yeah, not blinded and deafened, as you say. I could have it last for an hour. It's a combat ability. I think I'm just going to leave it for a minute. Like, maybe an hour is funnier. Because normally if it's a legendary action, that would only lasts until, like, the next turn. You know what I mean? I'm going to do it for a minute. I think a minute is probably safer. Just for the purposes of it being a combat monster. Okay. Oh, a huge stat block. Grotesque in size. Okay, cool. There is the... That's the Ancient Brass Dragon. So all we need to do now are a couple more lair actions and a couple more regional effects. And then we're good. We have about a half an hour to do that. I think it can be done. It can be done. So we're going to hop over here and do those really quick. Scroll back. Get these abyssal mutations out of here. I'm so behind on this stuff, you guys. I got to finish my demons still. Much less even my devils. Oh, I'm so woefully behind. Insert break. Just a moment, everyone. This is going to drag down the latency. Okay. So layer actions and regional effects. Regional effects. All right. Let's go. So what layer actions do we already have? I'm not gonna write them all out. I'll do that obviously in the write-up, but for the purposes of this, just so we don't duplicate ideas, the Brass Dragon has a strong wind that it summons that pushes people and knocks them prone, which is already pretty similar to the Thunder, but oh well. Strong wind pushes and knocks prone. And we have a Cloud of Sand. A Cloud of Sand that blinds people. Regional effects, we have... I think both of those are fine. Ooh, Quicksand's really good. I like Quicksand. Tracks appear in the sand, misleading people. Illusions persist. Illusions appear. And then this one I wanted to change. Whenever a creature approaches a water source,
I really like that one, Alan. I was thinking about the idea. Alan says regional effect, great reputation. Everyone who lives near the dragon is a huge fan and won't help you if you state an intention to do the dragon harm. I was thinking something along those lines where it was just like everyone is very talkative and gossipy, but I love the idea that it's like a weird cult of personality. I think that's very fun. The dragon can see and speak with you. See and speak with you through the water source. Cool. Yeah, I love that. So let's do great reputation. All good. Yeah, cult of personality, I think is funny. Heyo. All good, all non-evil aligned creatures. All non-evil aligned creatures within 6 miles of the dragon's lair view the dragon very favorably and won't help anyone who outwardly expresses a desire to harm or steal from the dragon. Yeah, M. Grant says what? I love that, Alan. Very good. M. Grant says, what about mirage? Like the true definition that draws you towards something desirable only to find you never arrive. I think that's cool. It does have 2 regional effects that are pretty similar. It's got tracks that appear in the sand that can either lead you towards the lair or away from the lair, depending on your intentions. And it also can create illusory monsters. So I feel like another one that creates a mirage is a little on the nose there, if we already have it have mislead. But I'm not opposed to like it hiding its lair or doing something like that. I think is interesting. Let's look at... Oh, we want to do quicksand as a lair action. Yes, I forgot about that. Quicksand's really good. Each creature, each enemy in the lair, I'm not going to write exactly how it's going to be worded. I can do this on my own. Finds that the ground beneath their feet turns to quicksand. They must make a strength saving throw to free themselves, or be restrained, or become restrained after 3 attempts. 3 failed attempts, or after 2 failed attempts to free themselves, they become blinded. Yeah. After 1 failed attempt, they fall prone. After 2 failed attempts, they become... So they're like pulled down into the earth, right? Yeah, that's cool. I need 3 more lair actions. So I wanted to do one that was cave collapse. The ceiling of the cave begins to collapse, dropping stalactites on the ceiling of the lair begins to collapse, dropping rubble and stalactites on the dragon's enemies. You know, make a dexterity saving throw or take XDX damage. If the dragon used its thunderous roar on this round, increase the damage by plus XDX, right? So the idea is that on the round where the dragon recharges its thunderous roar, you're incentivized to use Cave Collapse, right? Alan says, lair action, Peanut Gallery. Sycophants of the dragon mock you from the galleries, giving you disadvantage. I think that's funny. I think it's a little presumptive about the dragon's lair, but I like the idea. Yeah, okay. I do think you're onto something with the notion of the like we need a lair action that is not just about the physical space.
because we've got wind and sand and quicksand and cave collapse. I want at least one more that is more about the dragon's personality, and I think Peanut Gallery is close. I don't necessarily like the idea of them having like galleries or like grandstands full of people. I'm imagining like an operating theater, you know, so there's like the fight happening down here, and then up above there's a layer of people looking down on the fight and like clapping and cheering. Is very funny. Something about mockery is interesting though, although I think copper dragons are more about that. Turn to stone. Yeah, exactly, like the turn to stone. Yep, it's totally like that. For the quicksand. Petrification verbiage, yeah. That's what I'll use when I write it up properly. Something about the dragon's personality, something about the dragon being talkative, something about the dragon... Yeah, rocks fall. Something about the dragon's... like... have illusions already, a bunch of them. Don't really want to make the dragon too illusion-based. Don't hate mockery, but I think that's like a copper dragon's thing. I think that the point with the caricature, we would hate the characters in unflattering ways. I like these ideas, but I think the copper dragon is kind of the jerk dragon, whereas the brass is supposed to be nice. Yeah, copper dragons are incorrigible pranksters, joke tellers, and riddlers that live in hills and rocky uplands. So I like some of these ideas for that. I think that could be really fun. That like, yeah, they play jokes. So caricatures I think is interesting, but I don't think it works for this arguably very noodly like type of dragon. I always thought the brass and the copper were very similar in that way. These are good ideas, Alan, but I feel like we're dancing around it. Let's maybe think of another regional effect, and then regional effect and layer action we both need one more of. Okay, regional effect. Oftentimes I will do like environmental things. So, you know, a very obvious one for the white dragon is like endless winter. You know what I mean? Whereas it feels like with the brass dragon, they do live in deserts. But I think like a desertification is a little calamitous for who's ostensibly a good dragon. I mean, is there an interesting interplay between desertification and cult of personality, where the dragon's presence makes things more arid, but the people still love the dragon anyway? There's something kind of fun about that like the dragon's intention isn't to harm the area. Yeah, desertification. I don't know how to like word this, because it's not quite like, I don't think it's quite like red dragon like heat. I think it's more about well, it is also thunder related. Ooh, don't interrupt me is really good. Is that a better yeah, it's like a silence effect, except for everyone but the dragon. That's so good. Yeah, don't interrupt me. Yeah, like it moves into an area, begins to turn the land arid. I think that's right, M. Grant. But I love that it damages the crops and it like creates a problem. But because it also has the cult of personality, people in the area are not inclined to blame the dragon, right? So there's this weird problem of you go in and he's like, guys, the dragon is fucking with your shit. Like, your crops are dying, and the people there are like, no, the dragon protects us. Like, they're like blind to the failings of the dragon. Because I think one thing that I really love about metallic dragons is that they are ostensibly good aligned, but like, then why are they in the story, right? If these like very powerful dragons were so good aligned, why wouldn't they just solve all the problems? The conceit is that they are well intentioned, but they're not always acting in the best interests of everybody, right? That they can be selfish, or they can be short-sighted, or they can be, you know, arrogant, not necessarily like always with the best of intentions. All creatures apart from the dragon must fall silent for 1 round. And I kind of think it's no save. Do you know what I mean? I kind of think it's like, boom, it does it, and it's because like silence doesn't give you a save.
right? So no verbal spell components, no talking to each other. I love that one. That's great. Very good, Alan. I love that it excludes the dragon. Like, the dragon can talk, but not you. Fuck off. Crops, the land... I don't know exactly how I'll word this. The land around the dragon, within 6 miles of the dragon's lair, becomes arid and becomes dry and arid. Plains become deserts. Crops wither. Sandstorms. Fierce windstorms. Ravage the countryside. And the heat increases. Whatever, something like that. And again, I like these being kind of vague. Like, they're almost more adventure hooks than they are specific mechanics. Because that's sort of the point of them. Yeah, that's awesome. Hey everybody, that's the Brass Dragon. We did it. I think we did a really nice job of blending some of the themes of the dragon with its kind of environment, and adding in some new ideas about its thunder and its voice and its words. Let me scroll back to the top here. Yeah, that we're ending a little bit early, but that concludes today's Monster Workshop stream. Thank you everyone for coming out. Thanks David and M. Grant and Alan for all of your ideas and suggestions. We will be back, not on Saturday, where I would normally play Sea of Thieves. I have a game that Saturday, but I'll be back on Tuesday. You know what? I might get freaky and do a Sunday world building stream. We'll see how I feel, but I haven't done a world building stream in a really long time, and I'm finally ramping up for my Dwarven campaign, so it might be time to actually start putting some work into that. So that'll be Sunday, but then after that we'll have a stream on Tuesday, and we'll be back again next week. Hopefully we will be doing, next Thursday, we'll be doing a really exciting monster. The Lich is the monster that we did this week with a special guest, Jackie Leung, better known as Death by Mage, and I'm very excited for that episode to drop for patrons tomorrow and for the rest of the world on Sunday. But thanks everybody for coming out. You can check me out on Twitter and on Patreon and Discord and YouTube and all the places. If you haven't liked the video, please consider liking it. Most of you watching this, I'm sure, are subscribed, but if you're watching it on VOD and you're not subscribed, please check the subscribe button. It would mean a lot to me. But until then, I guess the construction crew never came back either. I just remembered that they were out there today. So I guess we were safe. We were fine. Poof. But thank you so much for watching. And until this weekend, fingers crossed for Sunday, thanks for watching and happy adventuring.